Is my audio on?
Sorry for startling anybody. I tried recording this video twice already and had to delete both of them due to audio issues. Today we are watching Share My Story. They are full of weird and wacky and zany stories. Alright, I'm just gonna pick a random one. I'm gonna do How I Became Rich at 12.
A long time ago, I found a little baby monkey on the side of the street. His mother was nowhere around, so I decided to take him home with me.
This is like the same voice actor for most of these stories.
We were really poor, so to feed him, I had to starve myself. But he kept growing bigger and bigger, which meant he needed more and more food. I was getting so thin, I was close to death.
He's dead!
And my mom forced me to let him go. I was crying as I opened the door, and he ran outside. I felt like I had lost a good friend. But after a few hours,
Where are you living,
I heard a
by the way?
knock at the door. So I opened it up, and there was my monkey friend again. He was holding 4 bananas and gave one to me, one to my sister, and one to my mom. Of course, we thanked the monkey and told him to go get more bananas. But this time he came back with 1 papaya and 1 mango. We figured he must have stolen them from the market. Well, this went on for several weeks. But one day, he
Frickin'
came
little
back with
thief.
a little gold necklace. It was
Okay.
beautiful. So the next day, I gave it to a girl in my class named Ananya. She was even poorer than we were. Her mother had died, so she had to work as a maid for my evil classmate Champak after going to school all day.
Champak.
Champak treated her like a servant.
He's
He made her
also
carry his
like
books
has
everywhere.
no blood cells at all.
And he loved barking orders at her in front of the whole class.
Why is he so
I put the
gray?
necklace around her neck, and she looked so beautiful. She gave me a kiss on my cheek and said, "Thank you." But the next day, she came back crying. She said Champak took the necklace from her and accused her of stealing it. He was really mean to her about it and punished her by making her scrub his room with a toothbrush. I wanted to fight Champak. I wanted to end him. But he was as strong as a grown man. Besides that, his father was powerful and could easily
He
take
is also
revenge on my
gray as
mom and
heck.
sister. He could have done terrible things to them. I was devastated and went home feeling helpless. But then I saw my
Did he say
monkey
his
bring
name?
us
I
more
forgot.
bananas, and that gave me an idea. I'd train him to steal from Champak's home.
Okay.
Maybe
just
he'd
break
even
the
find some
frickin' law.
valuable stuff to bring me. To train him, I
Are
hid
you-
a fake golden
He's just
wristband around our
confessing to a
house.
crime right now.
Anytime he found it, I rewarded him with a little bit of chocolate. Once the monkey was well trained,
Can
I took
monkeys
him
eat
to
chocolate?
Let me check. Yep.
Cool.
I was getting nervous, but then my monkey came back climbing down the wall. And he was carrying a gold necklace with a beautiful stone. He gave it to me, and I stashed it in my pocket. I started running toward home, but my stupid monkey went back inside Champak's house. While I got home safely, my monkey didn't make it. The next day, I went back to Champak's house to look for my friend. There, I saw a poster. It said, "If you want this monkey, give us back our jewelry." That monkey had been my friend. I loved him very much, and I hated to lose him. But the jewelry he'd given me was worth enough to get Ananya away from Champak's family. So, my mom and I went to another city to sell the necklace safely. We took the best offer and came home with 60,000 US dollars. That's a huge amount of money in my country. It was an At last, I want to thank my monkey friend. Thanks to him, we can live a comfortable life.
0 out of 10. Shouldn't have left the monkey. 0 out of 10. This next one is The 3 Psycho Sisters.
My dad was probably a psychopath. I know that because my 2 sisters are psychopaths too. I believe it runs in our family's genes. My mom struggled a lot raising all 3 of us on her own. She even had to kick out that
Wait,
because my 2
wait.
sisters are
She's at
psychopaths.
2 sisters. The title says 3.
I believe it runs in our family's genes. My mom struggled a lot raising all 3 of us on her own. She even
Went
had
out
to
to
kick out
buy
my sister
milk,
Rita when she
yeah.
was only 14 because she had sold our dog for $20 to a stranger just so she could buy herself some
What?
drugs. Anyway, 10 years later, our mom died, and all 3 of us sisters were invited to the reading of the will. You should know that your mom's will was changed just 2 weeks ago. That's when your mom decided that all her money shall go to Suzanne. What? But my mom promised me that I would get her entire inheritance. After all, I was Mom's favorite child and she hated my sister Suzanne. Seriously, when Suzanne was 18, she seduced my mom's boyfriend. They had an affair
What?
until Mom found them
Oh
out
my
at
God.
night, making out in her car inside the garage. That
Alright. Okay, this is going all over the place.
day, Mom kicked Suzanne out too, and she hated her ever since. Actually, our mom was very sick for the last few months, so self-sacrificing as I am, I offered to take care of her. She must have finally realized how good of a person I am and left it all to me. Oh, really? Then tell me, how did Mom die again? She suffocated on a piece of meat. It's tragic, isn't it? Right. And you had scratches all over your arms when the police arrived. That's because Mom was getting no air.
Start the death note music.
That's when she accidentally scratched me. Not my fault. To me, it was obvious.
Oh my God.
Somehow forced my mom to change her will and then killed her. Until that point, I'd always thought I was the good girl in my family. But something inside me changed that day, and I was willing to do anything to take what was rightfully mine. So
okay,
I came up
this
with
is-
a plan. You see,
I think
my
this
other
entire
sister
family is
always
insane.
been obsessed with reptiles. As a child, she had several pet snakes that she loved to watch eat other animals alive. She normally just fed them rodents, but one time she found a kitten on the street which she then fed
No.
to her boa constrictor, or as she called
Wha-
her, Mrs. Bone Crusher. Now Rita was running a pet shop specializing in the sale of snakes. I visited her at home saying, "Let's talk about Suzanne. Isn't it unfair that she stole our inheritance?" I engaged her in a long conversation and waited until Rita went to the bathroom. That's when I searched for her car key and made a copy of it. I did the same thing with Suzanne. I visited her saying how glad I was that she took care of Mom during her last few months. Then I used the first chance I got to make a
Alright,
copy of her
are you
house
going
key.
to-
Next, I bought a grown eastern diamondback rattlesnake. It's the most venomous snake in North America, and it was supposed to inject its venom into my sister Suzanne. But I wanted to
Okay.
forgive my other sister Rita for the crime
Why do all of these people just why do they all they're all psychos and they immediately admit to committing a crime?
because I hated her too. So at night, I went to Rita's house, got into her car with the copied key, and drove it to Suzanne. I also made sure that along the way, several security cameras caught Rita's car driving to Suzanne. I did so that the police would have enough evidence to convict Rita for the crime. I arrived at Suzanne's house, opened the door with a copy of her house key, and went inside with my snake in my right and a taser in my
jeez.
left hand. Look, I won't go into details, but eastern diamondback rattlesnake bites only have a fatality rate of around 20%. So to be safe, I made the snake bite her multiple times. Once
What?
Suzanne was unconscious, I dragged her from her bed into the backyard and laid her on the grass. The police found her 2 days later and started an investigation. Luckily, everything went as planned. The police immediately figured that no snake bites a human 6 times and always at the same spot around the neck area. Rita, who owned lots of snakes, immediately became the prime suspect. And when the police found the camera footage of her car driving to Suzanne's house at night, that's when they had enough evidence to lock her up. But don't feel bad for Rita. I told you,
She's a psycho and doesn't deserve any better.
does Rita
I
know
think
why
you're a
she did the
psycho.
crime? I'm not sure. But she will
Oh.
spend the next 27 years in prison and will have a lot of time to think about who did this to her. But until then, I'll enjoy the money I inherited from Suzanne.
What? Okay, what? You're just a all 3 of you were psychopaths. Also, it said the 3 psycho sisters. So they're all psycho. I'm going to give that story a 8 out of 10 because it was very. I hope it's not true because Jesus Christ.
2 years ago, my dad divorced my mom because he had found a new girlfriend. He literally threw her out of the house and said,
All right, since he didn't introduce his name, usually they introduce their name, but since he didn't, I'm gonna assume that he's gonna commit a crime and he's gonna kill his dad. He's gonna murder him. He's gonna bury him, and he's gonna inherit all his money because that seems like to be a running theme in these videos.
with a big
Bye-bye.
smile on his face. Yes, he was a terrible human being. And you might be surprised
That
that someone
justified
like
why I
him
had to
worked as
murder
a
him.
judge. But he was very skilled at pretending to be a righteous person to the outside world. Only when you got to know him more closely, you'd see what kind of monster he was. The same day he threw out my mom, his new girlfriend moved in. He'd probably cheated with her on my mom for months. She was 20 years younger than my dad, but actually seemed like a nice person. I guess she stayed with him because he bought her jewelry and took her out on vacations. I had no idea how my dad suddenly had so much money to spend, but I figured it was none of my business. Well, until my mom called me and asked why my college fund was empty. She and Dad had put money in there for the last 15 years and saved up $30,000.
Wow.
When I asked my dad, he said, "I've raised you and I owe you nothing. I've spent the money over the last few months on me and my girlfriend." I was
Just turned into
speechless.
Incredible Hulk.
My dad had spent my mom's savings on the same girl he had betrayed her with. I had never felt more disgusted by a human being. And when I told my mom what Dad had done with my college money, she collapsed and almost had a complete breakdown. Meanwhile, I was so furious that I went to his new girlfriend and told her everything. How my dad had betrayed my mom with her and how he had spent my college funds on himself. I wanted to let her know what kind of monster my dad really was. And it worked. She was just as disgusted by my dad's behavior as I was, and broke up with him the same day. Of course, I was satisfied. But when my dad found out that I had destroyed his relationship,
Uh-oh.
he went nuclear and screamed,
What is that?
"You will regret this terribly. I'll destroy you, and you will beg on your knees for forgiveness once I'm done with you." I didn't think he would actually take revenge on his own son. But I was dead wrong, because he literally destroyed my future. Here's how he did it. I was a pretty good soccer player and dreamed of making it into the big league.
Right.
My chances were pretty good as I had
Wild
already
guys.
won many titles. But every 2 months, I had to do a drug test. I didn't mind it though because I had nothing to hide. However, a week after they had taken my blood, my coach came up to me and said, "We've tested your blood and something is wrong. We have found 2 illegal substances, beta blockers and EPO." I was stunned. I said, "That can't be true. There must be a mistake. I want you to test my blood again." My coach agreed, but 1 week later, the test came back with the same results. My coach said, "According to our rules, we have to suspend you for 2 years.
Wait a minute.
And you also have to find a new club." I was shocked and started crying. A 2-year suspension might not sound like much, but I knew my soccer career was over.
2 years.
I
That's
went
like
home,
half of
looking
high
very
school.
sad. My dad and I hadn't talked in weeks, but when he saw me with tears in my eyes, he asked, "What's wrong? Did something bad happen?" I said, "It's none of your business." He responded, "I'm your father. I need to know what's going on in your life." I said, "My blood got tested and came back positive on 2 illegal substances." He said,
It was weed,
"Steroids
son."
and EPO?"
Oh.
I said, "How do you know?" And a big grin appeared on his face as he said, "It was just a guess." I immediately knew he was behind all of it. It was his revenge for me
Call the
destroying his
police on him or
relationship.
something.
I saw the kitchen knife right next to me. I was willing to use it, but I didn't want to go to prison, and luckily, I was able to control myself. He continued, "I told you not to mess with me, son. And next time, you better make sure no one pours any substances into your meals." Wow, I was about to explode. I needed to take revenge. I needed to completely and utterly destroy his pathetic life. So I quickly developed a plan. A
Call the
horrible
Avengers.
plan, but my dad deserved it. The world would be a better place without him.
Wait, what
Here
is he
is
doing?
how I did it. I asked
do
his
what?
ex-girlfriend for help. I told her what my dad had done and paid her $300 to sit down with me on the couch and to pretend to make out with me when my dad entered the house. He said, "What the hell?" And in that moment, his ex-girlfriend and I turned around and looked at him. I couldn't hold back a smile. My dad looked like he was struck by lightning. He needed a few seconds to process that his son was making out with his ex. Then he started screaming, "This will be the last day of your life!" and ran towards me. I pushed his ex aside and started wrestling with my dad. I was much stronger than him, so I wasn't in any serious danger. But I pretended otherwise. I screamed, "No! Don't hurt me, Dad! Please let me live!" Of course, I was filming everything on my video camera.
Of course.
Everything went according to plan, and he kept screaming, "You won't survive this!" But after 2 minutes, I had had enough and pushed him down from me. I took the camera and said to my dad, "This was just the beginning. You think you've destroyed my future? Well, I'm about to destroy your whole life." I edited the recording of our fight and went to the police. There, I filed a report. This was perfect because if my dad got convicted of a felony, he would lose his job as a judge. It was 2 weeks until his trial where he got sentenced to 3 months in jail and lost his license to practice as a judge. But it gets even better. Sold everything he owned. In total, I got $20,000 for all his belongings. It was less than he had stolen from my college fund, but I was still satisfied, and even gave dollars to my mom to support her. Unfortunately, I didn't see my dad's face when he came out of prison and found his house completely empty. I know he went nuclear though, because he sent me dozens of messages, threatening to take revenge on me again. But I feel like we are finally even. Also, let me know in the comments if you think that I've taken it too far.
No, I feel like this was pretty reasonable. It was sort of like tricking him into crime, but not. Alright, well guys, if you enjoyed that video, please remember to like and subscribe, for I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers.